Hey, what's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? Welcome to Space Between Ideas. I'm Blank Gates. Now, I just have a couple of minutes today, so let's do this quickly. Whew. All right, so it's day 54, and we have been talking about the state impact checklist. And what is it about the state impact checklist that we've been talking about? We've been talking about developing scenarios. So the first two steps of the first two themes of the state impact checklist, they are uh, talk about the general context, and then start talking about scenarios within that context. And the reason we're doing that is because we want to choose a course of action. Now, I was like, hey, how do we create scenarios? So I decided to flip over to the state teamwork checklist. And today, if you are with me, you will be receiving another badge, the state teamwork badge. Congratulations. When you reach the end of this video, if you have been here for the last 5 or 6 or days or whatever it was, then you will receive the state teamwork badge. Congratulations. Now, what is it that you need to know in order to receive this badge? Number one. All right, so we're looking at like, what do we want to do, right? So sometimes you want to communicate an offer, all right? You want to communicate an offer. You want to work with a provider, or you want to communicate an offer. You want to work with a customer. So how do you like communicate that offer? How do you communicate your needs? How do you tell your provider, we need this? How do you tell your customer, we can provide this? Well, there's like the structure in in the state teamwork checklist, so that you can look at the way that how companies can support each other, each level of that agreement. Like for example, if you have some kind of operational agreement, if you want to develop, or if you'd like to fulfill some kind of operational agreement, it's helpful if you go through the steps of this state teamwork checklist. And of course, obviously, if you want to achieve teamwork, then it's helpful to go through this state teamwork checklist. Basically, what you do is at the top, the y the x-axis of an Excel spreadsheet, you just write down the names of a variety of providers, or you write down the names of a variety of customers, or you write down the people who are going to be on a team. Like if you're thinking about putting a team together, you can put different names, in this team. And so that's the first thing, is you need to write down those names. Now, after you have the names or some kind of description of what you're looking for, what you want to put in that first row, then you go to the next row. So in the next row, you start to look at the outcomes. What are the outcomes that each team member is working toward? What are the outcomes that your providers are working toward? What are the outcomes that you are working toward with that provider? What are the outcomes you are working toward with that customer? What are the outcomes that your customers are working toward? All right, so what are these outcomes? And so like you could actually literally put your company here, and then the variety of providers who are providing some kind of service in this category, and then the providers who are providing a service in this category, and then and on and on. And then you can say, all right, so then this is our team that are working toward this activity, and these are the variety of people who I'd like to be on this team, or I'm considering to be on this team. And then these are the customer segments. These are the types of customers that we are trying to service. We have this type of product and we have this type of service, and we're looking for these you could like literally put hundreds and thousands of different columns in this Excel spreadsheet and explain exactly what are the outcomes that each of these entities or people are looking for. The next row is reuses. So after you write down your outcomes, next come the reuses. What are the reuses? All right, so after they've achieved success from using your product, after you've achieved success from using their product, how will things look later on down the road? What are the successes? What are the elements of that endeavor that you can reuse? Now, obviously, the next thing you want to start thinking about are the actions, about how do these entities support each other? How are these people in a team going to be supporting each other? How will you be supporting your providers, and how will they be supporting you? How will you be supporting your customers, and how will your customers be supporting you? Now, in addition to supporting you, these entities will also need to do other activities in order to fulfill the responsibilities and to achieve those outcomes and those reuses. All right, so in addition to supporting each other, what are the other actions that these people need to do? Now, basically, when you're going through it the first time, you're kind of thinking generally. Okay, so these are the actions. That this is how we support each other, generally like this, and like generally this is the other things that they need to do. But then specifically, all right. So in the next column, this is where it's like maybe, well, if you have different levels of service for one entity, you might already have a few different columns. But now you actually will need probably like a whole bunch of different columns. I mean, you can like write down, okay, this is, because the next row is about entity personas, all right? So this entity persona. So in this project, there's like 3 different responsibilities. There's 3 different people who do 3 different types of work. So person number 1, person number 2, person number 3. You could put it vertically. Or what you could do is you could split the column into 3 different sections and then put it horizontally. All right? So then, the entity personas, the work that is accomplished by these personas, it's actually like, it's when you put that all together, those are the actions of how the entity is going to be supporting you, and you're going to be supporting that entity, and those are the other actions. These actions of the entity can be split up into the specific work done by entity personas. All right, so that's the state teamwork checklist. Now, as you build out that entire process, now you have what? You have scenarios. You just have like scenario after scenario after scenario after scenario after scenario. You can like literally like look at all those different things. Now, the thing is, like, I'm still kind of like confused about it. It's like, all right, so we have all these scenarios, but like what are these scenarios about? Right? So I mean, that's probably where you can go back to some of the checklists that we've already been to. Maybe we're like writing scenarios about innovation. We would like to develop some type of program so that we can innovate better. Maybe we are going to be doing some kind of like process where we'd like to change our work styles. So this is like the scenarios for developing our work styles. Maybe these are our scenarios related to doing more research and developing our assumptions. So maybe we can go back to the state assumptions checklist. So those are like some of the possibilities, how this kind of dovetails into the other checklists. Now, of course, the idea of, as we mentioned in an earlier video, the idea of thinking about different scenarios, it goes right back to what? So the first step, the first badge you got was the endeavor element. So we're talking about forming agendas. Now, in the forming agendas area, if we go to the state progress checklist, another badge that you have, then we're talking about the build scenarios area. So right between build scenarios and choose plans is that sweet spot, right? Where you are actually, you need some understanding, you need some insight, you need the ability to make the right choice. And that's why like the build scenarios in the state progress checklist, it's just one line. But then the state impact is like a whole bunch of different lines. So eventually we need to make a decision. And then I'm saying like in order to really to draw out all of the different scenarios that you have available, then we use the same teamwork checklist to really to create this gigantic Excel spreadsheet of all the possibilities of how things connect, how all the working relationships, how they all connect, and what are the opportunities and choices that we have to make in that process. So I'm still kind of like debating what I should do, because there's 2 possibilities, right? We could finish off these courses of action, but then there's another checklist which might help you like make that decision. Like, are you going to choose this entity or this entity? Are you going to choose this team member? Or are you going to choose this team member? So I think what we'll do is, rather than finishing off the state impact checklist, we're going to move to state drive. And we're really going to start to understand what the endeavor needs are. And then we'll see if those different entities have the right attitude to be the right partner or team member in your endeavor. All right, so I'll see you tomorrow for State Drive. We're going to go for another badge before we go back to State Impact. This is Space Between Ideas. I'm Frank Gates.